Tom Vasel's top 100 games of all time. Some say that Tom is like a giant among men. Others say he's a little obsessed.
I don't even have a top 10.
Tom Vasel's top 100 games of all time.
Hey folks, welcome to the first episode in my top 100 games of all time. Today we're taking a look at numbers 100 through numbers 91. And this is interesting, as I said in my intro video, we're now looking at 10 years worth of data. And so are there any games that have been on the list for 10 years? Are there games that have just shown up this year? Well, we're about to find out. Number 100 is Trains from AEG. Now, the first time I played Trains, it was the Japanese company who had first made it, and I played it and I said, wow, what a ripoff of Dominion. And it really is very similar to the deck builder game Dominion. And last year, this was number 99, last year I said that if Trains got an expansion, I think it would go much higher on my list. Well, they actually have made an expansion where you're trying to connect different cities, and that sounds really cool, although that has not yet come out. I've seen some more maps for Trains, which is neat and interesting, but I think this expansion will take Trains to the next level. Also, I'd like to see more cards for the game. But as it is, it's still a very solid deck builder, one that I enjoy quite a bit. So my number 100 is Trains from AEG. Number 99 has been on the list now for 8 years, and that's Vegas Showdown. And I'll tell you what, I think Vegas Showdown would shoot even higher on the list if Vegas Showdown had quality components. Oh man, I like this game where you're building your casino and it has a really cool auction mechanism in it. An auction where you're trying to outbid other people, but you have to bid specific numbers. There's a track around each thing you're bidding for. So if I bid 5, maybe the next number is 7. And there's different tracks that are around a different board, and if you get outbid on something, you have to decide how much higher you're going to bid so that the other people can't come and take it away from you. And you have to decide if you're going to put slot machines in to get money or put in restaurants to bring in people, because you have to kind of keep a balance between bringing people and ways to make money. It's a great game, and unfortunately it's on paper mats, and when Hasbro reprinted it, they had a chance to make it nice and did not. I wish this game looked better, but even with the adequate components that it has now, it still makes number 99 on my list. Number 98 is Galaxy Trucker. Now, Galaxy Trucker has also been on the list for a long time, 7 years, although you're seeing it progressively fall down. And let me explain why. Once again, if it's in my top 100, I love it. But the reason that Galaxy Trucker, while I still like it quite a bit, is because much of the fun in Galaxy Trucker is the humor in building your ship and seeing it get blown up. And that is fun, and I like it, and it's entertaining. But I'm finding that I'm not always drawn to it as much as I used to be. Also, I got the expansions, and while I love all the stuff for the expansions for Galaxy Trucker, adding them to the set makes it a little bit more difficult to teach new people, so I have to have them separate and then add them in, which it's kind of a pain on how everything fits together. But those expansions are pretty nifty, and I would prefer to play with them most of the time, just because of all the cool little things that they add, and also the huge variety of different spaceships that you can build now. Galaxy Trucker is random as all get out, and yet I still like it quite a bit, my number 98. Number 97 for me is a game that just hit the list last year at number 44. So this may seem like a big drop, and it's not meant to be at all. It's just that last year I was so excited about it, and now it's kind of solidified. Still my top 100 though, and the expansion for it, which I'll be playing very soon, I think will bring it up, and that is City of Iron from Red Raven Games. Now, City of Iron is such a unique thing. First of all, the designer who did City of Iron, he designed it, did the art, did the production. That's a very rare thing today. But City of Iron is a Euro game with a kind of a unique theme to it, in that you're trying to go out and discover different lands and you need different resources, but you have different decks of cards. And this is a deck builder like Dominion and such, but it's a very different one because when you discard cards, you can when you reshuffle your pile, you can put them in any order you want. It has a very strong theme, like you want to go out and war and conquer other countries, or you're going to just try to get different resources. And there's a lot of really good decisions that are made in this game, theme flowing throughout it. I thought very highly of this one when I first played it and played it and played it, and still do, so that is why my number 97 is City of Iron. Number 96 is another game that's been on my list for 7 years, and that is Tribune. Tribune is a great worker placement game in which you are trying to get points. Now, there's different ways to play Tribune, different like scenarios, but the best way I find to play Tribune is to try to get as many points as you can in different ways. Yes, I know, point salad to some degree, but there's different factions that you're trying to influence, and you can beat someone else's faction, and you do it by playing cards. And just an interesting concept. You can beat someone else's faction by playing a higher total or by playing more cards. So if I have a 9 and an 8 card, you can beat that by playing 18 or more on the numbers on the cards, or by playing 3 cards. So you might play 3 cards that are a 1, 2, and a 3. And then on my turn, I just play 1 card, an 8, that's more than yours. So it's an interesting back and forth as you take control of the factions, and each faction gives you special points. And then there's this whole, what do you want to get? There's take a card that I'm not sure if it's any good or not, or take cards that I know what they are, but they're okay. It's really quite good, and I highly recommend playing with the expansion if you can. Number 95 is a new game to the list from last year, hit the list at 72, and that is Francis Drake. Now, Francis Drake is a game that, wow, it's beautiful, first of all, to look at this game, but the main thing that attracted me to Francis Drake was the fact that the game is split into 2 parts. And the second part is where you sail your ships out and you try to sail them to spots where other people aren't sailing theirs, so that there's not too much conflict there. Interesting. I like that. But the first part, you go to the market. And when it's your turn to market, you can go to any space in the market you want. But once you pass by a space, you can never go back. So if I see a good space up there, I want to get that so no one else can get that space. But I might skip 10 spaces in between. It's a cool concept. It's in multiple different games. But in this one, it just works so well, as you can sit there and go slowly and take the leftovers, or take a lot of good things but then not get as much. Very cool balancing there. And like I said, if you didn't catch it at the beginning, really good looking game. I like this one quite a bit, so my number 95 is Francis Drake. Number 94 has been on the list for 8 years again. This is just a solid game, one that I like playing, but I do want to talk about it a bit, and that's Thebes. Now, Thebes is a game in which you reach into a bag and pull out tiles, and you are discovering archaeological things, hopefully good ones. But there's a lot of junk of nothing in these bags. And so the whole point of this game is to make your pulls as good as you can. You like research that you can pull more tiles from the bag, or there's different ways that you can do this, and it's good. It has some really great mechanisms. But they came out with Thebes, the card game, which I liked almost as much. It's not nearly as cool of a production. Drawing cards is not the same thing as reaching into a bag, but still a very solid game. In fact, I only own Thebes, the card game, because of space thing. And so I have Thebes, the card game. It's a great game. It gives me almost a similar feeling. Which one do I like better? I don't know. Thebes the card game has a little bit better mechanisms. Thebes, the board game, just has that reaching into a bag and pulling out tiles. I don't know. That gives me more of an archaeological dig feeling than the card game does itself. But very solid game, either one you get. Like it. Very fun, too. And it's fun to laugh at other people when they pull out a bunch of empty tiles. My number 93 is another game that was new to the list last year, and that's Exodus Proxima Centauri. Now, Exodus Proxima Centauri is a game that I call Twilight Imperium Light. And while that's not exactly true, there's a lot of interesting things about it. There's technology. The technology tree is vast, and there's all different things you can do, and you can do them in any order you want. However, if you do them in a certain order, it's much cheaper. So you have to decide whether you want to go for the really cool stuff and pay out the nose for it, or build your way up there and pay a lot less. Very interesting. And then the whole concept has simultaneous movement. It has a card where you play, where you get to do the top thing on a card, but everybody else can do the bottom. So you have to consider when you put a card out, am I helping other people? And custom building your spaceships that go up into space and fight everyone else's spaceships. Some really interesting concepts. You'll notice that Eclipse is not on my list. A lot of people like Eclipse, and I think Eclipse is a fine game. But Exodus Proxima Centauri, it skews a little bit more towards the fighting and technology, while Eclipse tilted more towards the economic end of the scale. Other than that, they have a very similar feel. I could see how one wouldn't want to have both, and that's the case for me. And in my case, I chose Exodus Proxima Centauri. Also, it came out in a revised version this year, much nicer than the original version from last year. My number 92 has also been on the list for 8 years. A lot of these 8 years. 8 years ago, I added a lot of games, apparently, and that is Pillars of the Earth, a solid worker placement game where you build a cathedral. Now, the cathedral, the wooden pieces in the middle, is just a way to keep track of how many turns are left in the game. That's not that big of a deal, but it's cool looking, and the whole thing has a solid theme. I need to gather some wood over here, and then these guys over here are going to work, and I'm hiring this guy because he lets me do some special ability. And it has a neat mechanism, which I've not seen used in any other game, where you reach into a bag, pull out a worker, and say, do you want to put that on the board? Why, yes, I like to go first, but I have to pay more. If I pass, I'll put it out later, but I won't have to pay. So then the second person, now it's a little bit cheaper. Do you want to put that on the board? Do you want to pay to put that on the board, or do you want to wait till later? Eventually, you have to decide when it's worth it for you to pay a lot of money, which isn't that easy to get in the game, to go first or go last. And really, really a cool concept, and I wish other games would steal that and use it. So my number 92 is Pillars of the Earth. And the last one for this list was another game that I added last year, so no new games from 91 to 100. But this one I started playing last year, and that's Robinson Crusoe. Robinson Crusoe from Portal Games is a cooperative game which may be the most thematic cooperative game in existence. And if I had to pick games that were so thematic I could not believe it, Robinson Crusoe would be up there in that list. And we're talking multiple scenarios in the box, and each scenario feels like some kind of movie. One scenario might feel like, Swiss Family Robinson. Another scenario like Robinson Crusoe. Another scenario like one of those old 1950s movies where you went through and the cannibal natives are chasing you. Really good stuff. Very difficult game. Tons of variety. It's a very enjoyable game. I haven't even scratched the surface of what this game offers. They just came out with a very loaded expansion. I haven't even looked at that yet, so that has no bearing on my rating, The Voyage of the Beagle. But still, I'm just so impressed with the amount of game that is in this game, Robinson Crusoe. So, that's number 91 to 100. I hope you enjoy those. If you notice, at the same time I'm doing my top 100, Dan King is doing his top 100. And so, I hope you enjoyed them. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.
Tom Vasel's top 100 games of all time. Some say that Tom is like a giant among men. Others say he's a little obsessed.
I don't even have a top 10.
Tom Vasel's top 100 games of all time.